Hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this episode of Christ for Life. I am your boy SIMB to the A, but I prefer calling myself Sims. I welcome you to our series that is entitled Cultivating an Attitude of Gratitude. And a special shout out to a friend of mine that assisted me with this topic. We were discussing one of those good days and we were just sharing the Word of God. And this topic came up, and it is a topic that has actually made an impact in my life. It had helped me review where I'm coming from, and it's actually helping me understand why I need to thank God. So I thought that I should share some of the experiences with the people on Christ for Life. But before I do that, we need to go back to basics. We need to go back to basics. A lot of people don't know that gratitude actually has got basics. So in order for you to develop an attitude of gratitude, we need to go back to where it all begins. So ladies and gentlemen, on today's topic, we are going to be focusing on privilege versus right. Check this out. So basically, after watching that video, I believe most of you guys are asking yourselves the question, what were we watching? What was that all about? But I just want you to put that video on hold. Just put it on hold just for now, and let's try and focus on trying to break down privilege versus right. So in my own opinion, those two are the same, but the difference is a privilege is a glorified right. It is a glorified right. So what is a right? In my own opinion, a right is something that is practiced, that is actually constitutional. So it is constitutional and you are allowed to practice it. It is a legal practice that is based, that is actually driven from the constitution. So a particular nation has got certain constitutions, has got certain laws, certain rules that govern that particular nation. And those rules become rights. So you have the right to religion, you have the right to education, you have the right to speech. So that's what we call right. And a privilege is actually just a glorified right. So let me give an example of the two. There is freedom of speech, which is, I believe it is a right that is found in many nations, where people have the right to actually utter their views. They have the right to speak what they think. They have the right to share their thoughts. So at times, when you're practicing this particular right, it is governed by certain laws. You have got certain limitations and you've got certain restrictions when you're practicing this particular right. So take for instance, freedom of speech, and you want to share your opinion about a certain CEO of a certain company. You need to actually make sure that when you are sharing your views, you actually share them with wisdom, in a way that does not deform that particular CEO's character. Because if you do so, and if you destroy or dismantle or disintegrate that particular CEO's character or his image, you might be charged by what is known as deformation of character, and you might actually end up being arrested. So that is you practicing it right. But let's look at a privilege from freedom of speech. There is what is known as absolute privilege, or something that is known as parliamentary privilege. This is privilege that is actually practiced in what some nations call the House of Assembly, or in parliamentary proceedings. So take for instance, there is a problem within a particular province, or there is a problem within a particular city, and the minister or the MEC or whosoever is responsible for that particular region or for that particular province is addressing the matter within parliamentary proceedings. The members of parliament have the privilege to actually share their views based on that particular minister or that particular person who's responsible, and they are allowed to utter words, and the words that they utter at times might be harsh, but these particular people are not charged with defamation of character, even though their words might be viewed as words that deform one's character, but because they are under a particular privilege, they are not sued. What am I trying to say? What am I trying to say? How does this connect with developing an attitude of gratitude? Many of us view life as a right. Many of us view life as a constitutional right that we practice, whereas life is not a constitutional practice. It is a privilege that is given to us. It is something that is favored to us. We are actually given favor to be alive. So as I was defining privilege and right, you would actually see that people that are in parliament have a certain favor, that they can actually do something and be above the law. They can actually be above the law based on the fact that they have that just particular privilege. So it is not something that is given to them by constitution, but it is something that is granted to them by favor. So what am I trying to say? Most people view life as a right, which becomes the limitation. Most people limit themselves because they view their lives as a right, whereas life is not a right, but life is a privilege. Life is not governed by certain rules and certain laws, but life is governed by the particular person that gave you that life. And that particular person is God, and He gave you a privilege. And I want you to understand, going back to the example that I gave, absolute privilege is only practiced when parliament is actually underway. During parliamentary proceedings, you do not practice absolute privilege anyway. So a privilege is something that is given to you for a certain time. It can be taken at any time. That's why we are given life. Some of us were born in 1916. Some of us were born in 1991. Some of us were born in 1954. Some of us were born in 2001. All of us were given this particular life at a particular time, and it can be taken away from us exactly at a particular time again. Let's say the right was given in 1956, it comes in 1956 and it's practiced every day. There is no time where a right can be taken off unless there is parliamentary debates, and it is then seen as to be unconstitutional. But a privilege is something that is taken to you. That favor can be just taken away from you. It's something you have, but it's something that can be taken away from you. So why am I saying that life is a privilege? Life is given to us by God. Life we don't do anything to obtain life. God can just choose to say that I have given you this life and you have practiced your privilege and it's enough. That's why we do not have an actual date where all of us know when we're gonna die. It just happens. You just wake up, the person you're talking to today, the next day that person is gone. You need to understand that life is a privilege. It is not something that you own. It is not something that you practice because it is your right. It is a given right. It is not a constitutional right. It is a given right. You are one of the few favored people by God to be given life. So when we're looking at that video, we saw the guy dressing up, doing all that he could, but there's one point that is so important. There's one point that is so valuable, and it is the point where he opened his eyes, because that just doesn't happen. The shirt that he was putting on, the tie that he was putting on, the jacket that he was putting on, and the watch that he was putting on, he chooses because it is his right. He can choose to put it on, he can choose to put it off. It's his right. but you can never choose to open those eyes. It's a God-given gift. Ladies and gentlemen, please understand that what you have is precious. What you have, you can never get it from anywhere. There is no nation that can guarantee your life. There is no nation that can constitutionally give you life. But it is only God, and it is a privilege that you live. You don't need to do anything. That life of yours is not governed by rules. That's why you have the privilege to actually practice what you want. You have the privilege to believe what you want, even if God doesn't approve of it. You have the privilege to believe in anything. You have the privilege to do what you want. You can practice what you want. Why? Because it is a privilege. Ladies and gentlemen, I just wanted to show you that you need to give thanks to God, because it's favor that you are alive. No matter what you're going through, no matter the mess that you're in, just know that it's favor to be alive. Stay blessed. Thank you for watching that small video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you were informed. Since it was our takeoff, we're just trying to make definitions and all that. But on the next video, we're going to be more scriptural. We're going to be bringing in scriptures. And also the next video that we're going to be doing, we're going to be explaining about the different privileges that we get. Since we say that privilege is favor, favor is not actually the same. Favor comes at different levels. And we're going to be discussing of how we are privileged differently, because some of us view our lives as dead ends. We think that there is no hope, but we're going to be playing a few videos before we start and seeing people that totally had no hope, but they were also privileged by God. Stay blessed. And don't forget to do one thing: subscribe.